The morning shift at Outpost Delta 7 started like any other boring day. Captain Jake Morrison sipped his coffee while staring at endless rows of static on his monitoring equipment. 3 years he'd been stuck at this remote listening post, catching radio signals from distant stars. Most days brought nothing but cosmic background noise and the occasional merchant ship checking in. But today was different. The first thing Jake noticed was the signal strength. Whatever was broadcasting had enough power to reach across half the galaxy. The second thing he noticed made his coffee go cold. The transmission wasn't coming from human space. "Computer, clean up that signal," Jake commanded, leaning forward in his chair. The static cleared slowly, revealing something that made his stomach drop. It was a voice, desperate and broken, speaking in a language he'd never heard before. The universal translator kicked in after a few seconds. What Jake heard next would haunt him for the rest of his life. "Please, anyone who receives this message, we beg for your help. Our cities are burning. Our children are dying. We are the Zalani Confederation, and we are under attack by the Krovar Empire. We have never known war. We don't know how to fight. They consume our worlds like hungry beasts. We offer everything we have to anyone who will save us." Jake's hands trembled as he recorded the transmission. Through his small observation window, he could see the vast emptiness of space. But somewhere out there, an entire species was being slaughtered. The Zalani voice continued, growing weaker. "Our defensive fleets lasted only hours. Their adapt to every weapon we use. They turn our own technology against us. 17 colonies have fallen in the past month. If anyone hears this, please help us. We have gold, rare minerals, advanced medical technology. Take whatever you want. Just please, don't let us die alone." Jake immediately called his commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Beth Richards. She was a tough woman who'd seen action in the Mars colonial wars, and she didn't scare easily. But when she heard the Zalani distress call, her face went pale. "How many species have responded to their call?" she asked. Jake checked his long-range scanners. "None, ma'am. The nearby star systems have all gone radio silent. Looks like everyone's pretending they never heard it." Richards nodded grimly. "Can't blame them. The Krovar Empire has a reputation that makes grown admirals wet their pants. They don't just conquer worlds, they consume them. Every plant, every animal, every living thing gets processed into fuel for their bioships." "What do we do?" Jake asked. Richard stared at the transmission data for a long moment. Outside their small outpost, the stars seemed colder somehow, knowing that somewhere among them, innocent beings were dying while the galaxy looked the other way. "We forward this to Earth Command," she finally said. "It's above our pay grade." Jake started preparing the data package, but he couldn't shake the feeling that they were the Zalani's only hope. Every other species in the galaxy seemed content to let them die rather than face the Krovar themselves. As he sent the signal racing toward Earth at faster-than-light speeds, Jake wondered what humanity would do. Would they be like everyone else and ignore the desperate plea? Or would they do what humans had always done throughout their bloody history? The answer would come soon enough. But first, the message had to reach people who could make decisions that would shake the galaxy. Deep in his gut, Jake knew that whatever happened next would change everything. The Krovar had never faced a species like humanity before, and humanity had never ignored a cry for help, no matter how dangerous the situation. The emergency meeting at Earth Command had been going on for 6 brutal hours. Admiral Kate Williams watched the holographic display showing Krovar ships tearing through Zalani space like wolves through a flock of sheep. Every few minutes, another red dot disappeared from the map. Another world lost. Another billion lives snuffed out. "We can't get involved in every alien conflict," argued Secretary of Defense Robert Chen, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Humanity has its own problems. Our colonies are still recovering from the Titan rebellion." Williams wanted to punch something. She'd been listening to this same argument for hours while an entire species was being eaten alive. The other joint chiefs sat around the polished metal table, most of them looking anywhere except at the horrific footage streaming in from Zalani space. "Show them the intelligence report again," Williams demanded. The main screen flickered to life, displaying everything they'd learned about the Krovar Empire in the past 12 hours. It wasn't pretty. These weren't normal conquerors who wanted territory or resources. They were biological nightmares that consumed everything in their path. General Mike Torres, the grizzled commander of the Marine Corps, leaned forward. "Look at this footage. The Krovar don't just kill their enemies, they harvest them. Every living thing gets processed into biomass to fuel their war machine." The room watched in silence as Krovar bioships descended on a Zalani agricultural world. The ships looked more like giant insects than spacecraft, with writhing tentacles and pulsing organic holes. Where they landed, forests withered and died. Within hours, the planet's surface turned gray and lifeless as massive feeding tubes sucked up everything organic. "The Zalani are herbivores," Williams explained, her voice tight with controlled anger. "They've never fought a real war in their entire evolutionary history. Their idea of conflict resolution is a strongly worded diplomatic note. They literally don't have the brain wiring for warfare." "That's not our problem," Chen insisted. "We've got our own people to protect." "It will be our problem," Williams shot back, standing up and pointing at the star map. "Look at the Krovar expansion pattern. They're not just randomly eating worlds. There's a plan here. They're moving in a straight line toward the outer human colonies." The room went quiet as everyone studied the projected path. The red arrows, showing Krovar movement, pointed directly toward human space like a dagger aimed at Earth's heart. Torres spoke up, his voice grim. "At their current rate of expansion, they'll reach our mining colonies in the Kepler system within 2 years. 2 years where they'll have consumed dozens more worlds," Williams added. 2 years to grow stronger while we sit here debating. Every planet they eat makes their fleet bigger and more dangerous. The president's voice crackled through the secure communicator. "What are you recommending, Admiral?" Williams took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define her career and possibly humanity's future. "We deploy Third Fleet immediately. Hit them now while they're spread out conquering Zalani space. Show them that Earth doesn't back down from bullies." "Third Fleet isn't ready for a major campaign," protested Admiral Johnson from Navy Operations. "We'd need at least 6 weeks to fully prepare." "We don't have 6 weeks," Williams replied sharply. "Every day we wait, more innocent people die. The Zalani won't last another week at this rate." Torres nodded slowly. "Third Fleet can be combat ready in 48 hours if we push it. Won't be pretty, but we can do it." Williams felt something fierce and determined burning in her chest. "Make it 24 hours, General. Load every kinetic weapon in the arsenal. Railguns, mass drivers, good old-fashioned nuclear warheads." "Why kinetics?" asked Chen. "Because these bioships adapt to energy weapons," Williams explained. "Their hulls learn to absorb laser fire and deflect plasma, but they've probably never seen a tungsten rod moving at 30% light speed. Let's see how well they adapt to getting punched in the face." The room buzzed with sudden activity as officers began making calls and issuing orders. Williams stared at the star map, knowing she'd just committed humanity to a war against an enemy that had never lost. But someone had to stand up for the innocent, and humans had never been good at backing down from a fight. The Krovar fleet hung in space like a collection of nightmare creatures, their bioships pulsing with organic light around the dying Zalani homeworld. Admiral Kate Williams stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderbolt, watching the alien vessels through the main view screen. They looked more like deep-sea monsters than spacecraft, with writhing tentacles and hulls that breathed like living skin. "Open a channel," Williams ordered, straightening her uniform. Even facing these monsters, she'd follow proper military protocol. Humanity always tried diplomacy first, even when they knew it wouldn't work. The communication screen flickered to life, showing something that made several bridge crew members step backward. The Krovar commander was a towering insectoid creature with 6 arms and mandibles that clicked when it spoke. Its compound eyes reflected the bridge lights like black mirrors. "I am Fleet Commander Vextel of the Krovar Empire," the creature spoke through the universal translator. "You will withdraw your primitive vessels immediately, or be consumed." Williams kept her voice steady and professional. "This is Admiral Kate Williams of the United Earth Navy. You are conducting an illegal assault on a peaceful species. Withdraw your forces immediately, or face the consequences." The sound that came through the speakers was unmistakably laughter, a harsh chittering that made everyone's skin crawl. Vextel's mandibles clicked rapidly as it consulted what looked like a biological computer growing from the wall. "Humans," it hissed with amusement. "Another soft species from a water world. Your data shows you've barely left your home system. We have conquered 300 worlds and consumed their populations. What threat could you possibly pose?" Colonel Brad Hayes, watching from his marine transport ship nearby, couldn't help but grin. The Krovar had clearly done their homework on humanity's official records but missed the important details. They saw a young species with limited territory, not understanding that humans had spent their entire history learning how to kill each other more efficiently. "Final warning," Williams said calmly. "Withdraw, or we will force you to withdraw." Vextel's laughter grew louder. "Your species amuses me, human. Perhaps we will keep some of you as pets before processing the rest into biomass. My bioships have adapted to every weapon known to civilized space. Your pathetic fleet will feed our growth for months." Williams nodded to her weapons officer. "Commander Chen, you may fire when ready." The first salvo from the human fleet was unlike anything the Krovar had ever encountered. While most galactic civilizations had moved to sophisticated energy weapons, humans still believed in the simple physics of throwing heavy objects very, very fast. Tungsten rods launched from railguns slammed into Krovar bioships at tremendous speeds. The organic armor that had evolved to absorb and redirect energy weapons was completely helpless against kinetic projectiles. The rods punched through holes like bullets through tissue paper. Nuclear warheads followed close behind. The Krovar bioships tried desperately to adapt, their hulls shifting and changing to deflect the attacks. But there's no evolutionary response to a thermonuclear explosion happening inside your ship. Hayes watched through his transport's viewport as the flagship of the Krovar fleet simply came apart. Chunks of organic matter spun away into space as internal explosions tore the massive bioship to pieces. Vextel's final transmission was a scream of rage and disbelief that cut off abruptly. "Status report," Williams requested calmly, as if she'd just ordered coffee instead of unleashing destruction on a galactic scale. 12 Krovar bioships destroyed, ma'am," reported the tactical officer. 3 more heavily damaged and retreating. We've lost 1 frigate, with minor damage to 2 others. Hayes activated his comm system. "Ma'am, I don't think they were expecting us to fight dirty." Williams smiled grimly as she watched the surviving Krovar ships fleeing toward the edge of the system. "Son, they haven't seen anything yet," signaled the fleet. "We're pursuing those retreating ships. I want every Krovar commander in this sector to know exactly what happens when you mess with humanity's friends." The Zelani Orbital Defense Coordinator's voice crackled through the speakers, speaking in their musical language before the translator kicked in. "Human fleet, this is incredible. In 15 minutes you accomplished what we couldn't do in months of fighting. How is this possible?" Williams looked at the tactical display showing Krovar debris scattered across space. "Simple. They adapted to fight civilized species. We're not civilized. We're from Earth." Dr. Lisa Carter's mobile laboratory hummed with activity as she dissected another Crovar biosample. The smell was awful, like rotting fish mixed with industrial chemicals. Around her, massive human industrial ships worked day and night, turning asteroids into bullet factories and missile production centers. The sound of mining equipment and assembly lines never stopped. "This is worse than we thought," Lisa muttered, studying the alien tissue under her microscope. Her assistant, Dr. Kevin Park, looked up from his own workstation, where he was analyzing Crovar ship fragments. "What do you mean worse?" Kevin asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. Lisa pulled up her findings on the main screen. "Look at this cellular structure. The Crovar don't just eat other species for food. They literally convert organic matter into ship components. This hull fragment has DNA from at least 12 different alien species mixed into it." The implications hit Kevin like a punch to the stomach. "You're saying their ships are made from the people they've killed? Not just people. Everything. Plants, animals, bacteria, even the soil, microorganisms. They strip planets down to bare rock and turn every living thing into building materials." Lisa's voice was tight with disgust. "This isn't war, Kevin. It's industrial-scale butchery." Meanwhile, on the surface of the Zalani homeworld, Major Tom Jackson was having his own problems. He stood in what used to be a beautiful crystal garden, now converted into a makeshift training ground. Around him, dozens of Zalani civilians awkwardly held human weapons, their large purple eyes filled with confusion and fear. "No, no, no," Jackson said patiently to a young Zalani male who was holding his rifle like it might bite him. "You point the dangerous end at the enemy, not at your friend." The Zalani, whose name was something unpronounceable that sounded like musical chimes, looked mortified. "But Major Jackson, this weapon is designed to end life. In our culture, even thinking about harming another being is considered deeply wrong." Jackson sighed. He'd been a Marine for 15 years, fought in 3 different conflicts, but nothing had prepared him for trying to teach pacifists how to kill. It was like trying to teach fish how to fly. "Look, I understand your culture values peace," Jackson said, switching to his gentler voice, the one he used with new recruits. "But the Crovar aren't going to respect that. They see your peaceful nature as weakness, as something to exploit." Another Zalani, an elderly female who served as their spiritual leader, spoke up. "We have meditated on this problem for many cycles, Major. Perhaps if we offered to share our worlds with the Crovar, they would not need to consume us entirely." Jackson stared at her for a long moment, trying to process what she'd just said. "Ma'am, with all due respect, that's like offering to share your dinner with a hungry tiger. You don't end up with half a dinner. You end up as the dinner." The training session was interrupted when Admiral Williams' voice crackled through Jackson's. "Communicator. Major, report to the command center immediately. We need to discuss our next phase of operations." Jackson found Williams standing over a holographic star map, studying red markers scattered across dozens of systems. Each marker represented a Crovar breeding world, places where they raised their young and processed conquered species into ship materials. "Admiral, the Zalani Council is asking questions," Jackson reported. "They want to know why we're targeting what they call civilian Crovar worlds." Williams looked tired. She'd been awake for 36 hours straight, coordinating the largest military operation in human history. "What did you tell them?" "I tried to explain that there are no civilian Crovar, that their entire society is built around consumption and expansion. But they don't really understand the concept of total war." Williams nodded grimly. "Show them the intelligence reports. Every Crovar civilian world is a factory that produces soldiers and ships. Every Crovar child will grow up to consume other species. This isn't about revenge, Major. It's about making sure this never happens again." Jackson studied the tactical display. Human fleets were moving toward Crovar nursery worlds, places where millions of young Crovar were being raised. The Zalani are having trouble accepting that we're going to target areas with children. Then remind them that those children ate Zolani babies for breakfast, Williams replied coldly. Every Crovar world we leave intact is a future threat too. Every peaceful species in the galaxy. We didn't start this war, Major, but we're damn well going to finish it. Through the command center's windows, Jackson could see human industrial ships working around the clock, building weapons that would end the Crovar threat forever. The gentle Zolani would never understand, but sometimes peace only came through overwhelming force. Tell them it's so, no one else has to go through what they did, Williams said finally. The Crovar hive world loomed ahead like a cancerous growth in space. Admiral Kate Williams stared at it through the bridge view screen, her stomach churning with disgust. The thing was massive, easily the size of Earth's moon, but it wasn't a planet, it was alive. Pulsing veins of sickly green light ran across its surface, and massive tentacles writhed in the vacuum like a dying octopus. 300 ships reporting ready, Admiral, her tactical officer announced. Around them, the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled hung in formation. Every available warship from Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies had joined this final assault. Williams keyed her communicator to address the entire fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Williams. That thing down there is the heart of the Crovar Empire. It's a living factory that's been producing the bioships that terrorized this galaxy for centuries. Today, we cut out that heart. Captain Ryan Murphy, leading the Marine assault teams, checked his weapon one final time. His transport ship was packed with 2,000 of Earth's finest soldiers, all volunteers for what everyone knew was likely a suicide mission. The plan was simple: get inside the hive world, find its brain center, and plant enough explosives to cripple it, while the fleet bombarded from outside. Remember, Murphy told his troops over the comm system, this isn't a building we're entering. It's a living creature the size of a small moon. The corridors will try to heal around us. The walls might bleed, and somewhere in there is a brain that's been orchestrating genocide for 300 years. Sergeant Amy Chen, Murphy's second-in-command, raised her hand. Sir, what if the passages close behind us? Murphy grinned grimly. Then we make new ones. We brought enough explosives to carve our way through a mountain. I think we can handle some alien biology. The assault began with the fleet's heaviest weapons, nuclear missiles, kinetic bombardments, and experimental plasma cannons hammered the hive world's surface. The creature's screams echoed through space itself, a psychic wail that made hardened Marines clutch their heads in pain. Murphy's transport ship dove through a wound in the hive world's hull, landing in what looked like a massive organic hangar. The walls pulsed with veins full of glowing fluid, and the air smelled like rotting meat mixed with ozone. Move out, Murphy shouted, leading his Marines into corridors that twisted like intestines. The floors were soft and spongy, making each step feel like walking on rotten fruit. Somewhere in the distance, they could hear the creature's heart beating like distant thunder. Above them, Admiral Williams watched the tactical display as her ships continued their bombardment. But she knew conventional weapons wouldn't be enough. The hive world was regenerating damage almost as fast as they could inflict it. Dr. Lisa. Carter's voice crackled through the comm system from the science vessel. Admiral, the Omega virus is ready for deployment. Williams closed her eyes for a moment. The Omega virus was humanity's most terrible creation, a biological weapon designed specifically to target Crovar genetic material. It would kill every Crovar in the galaxy within months, spreading through their bioships like wildfire. Ma'am, her communications officer said quietly, the Zolani fleet commander is requesting to speak with you. The screen flickered to show the alien's purple face, his large eyes filled with worry. Admiral Williams, our sensors detect you are preparing to deploy a biological weapon. Surely there must be another way. Williams looked at him with tired eyes. Commander, your people spent 3 months trying to negotiate with these monsters, while they ate your colonies. Sometimes there is no other way. Deep inside the hive world, Murphy's team had fought their way to what looked like a massive brain chamber. Crovar defenders had attacked them constantly, but human weapons proved superior to organic armor. Now they stood before a pulsing mass of neural tissue the size of a city block. "Plant the charges," Murphy ordered. "We've got 10 minutes before this place realizes what we're doing." Williams made her decision. Deploy the Omega virus. The weapon dispersed invisibly through space, seeking out Crovar genetic signatures. Within hours, bioships throughout the galaxy began dying. The hive world's screams grew louder as the virus reached its core. Murphy's explosives detonated just as the creature began its death throes. The Marines barely escaped as the entire structure convulsed in agony. From space, Williams watched the hive world collapse in on itself, its green lights flickering out one by one. Within 6 months, the Crovar Empire was gone. Their bioships drifted dead in space, nothing but empty shells. The species that had terrorized half the galaxy for centuries was extinct. The Zalani were saved, but their gratitude came mixed with fear. They realized their rescuers were capable of genocide without hesitation when protecting their allies. Across the galaxy, other species took note. Humanity had announced itself not as conquerors, but as something far more dangerous, protectors who would do absolutely anything to keep their friends safe. The humans called it justice. The galaxy called it a warning.